Well, good evening. I'm glad you can join me. Again, this is a psalm that I have prepared for Wednesday nights. Since COVID came along and we've had to do either Wednesday night services, but to give you a little something to think about, a little devotion here from Psalm. This time the 35th Psalm that we're going to look at. I titled it "Contend for Me." And again, I want these Psalms that we've been going through to be like old friends to you. If you've read through the Psalms and you keep going through them, when things happen in your life, you remember a psalm that spoke to you about that very thing that you're going through, and you can go back and renew yourself in that and reassure yourself in that. And that's what these Psalms are for. And this is an important Psalm. It's a long Psalm, some 28 verses. We're not going to go through all of them, but the message is simple and clear. In Psalm 35, 1 through 28, that I titled, "Contend for Me." And this is a psalm probably written around that period of time where David was being pursued by Saul and by maybe assassins that were sent after him to get him. A good backdrop for this psalm would be 1 Samuel 24. And in the midst of that, or because of that, David ends up in these experiences of being pursued and people talking bad about him and setting traps for him. He writes a song about it. And we have that song. And we can go to it when we may find ourselves in a similar situation. Hopefully not as bad as David did, but we can draw comfort from the way in which God comforted him, running for his life. And it sounds like in this song to me that David is tired. I mean, he's wore out. The persecution against him has just increased and increased. And it's sad that we have to come to an end of ourselves in trying to deliver ourselves before we finally just stop, give up, turn to God in prayer, and pray for him to contend for us. Wouldn't it be better that if we just let him do that to begin with? And maybe that's part of the lesson of this psalm. Let God fight your battles for you. Don't go out there in your own strength. Vengeance belongs to the Lord, not to you. God is the righteous judge. He knows what's going on in their hearts and their motives. He'll take care of that. Our job is to give it to God in prayer and let him fight our battles for us. And so he begins then in that first verse, "Contend, O Lord, with those who contend with me. Fight against those who fight against me. Take up shield and buckler. Arise and come to my aid. Brandish spear and javelin against those who pursue me. Say to my soul, I am your salvation." God, comfort me. Remind me that you're my salvation. You will fight for me. I just need to give these circumstances and these people over to you and let you take care of it. That's your job, Lord. And when I take those things upon myself, I get wore out, tired, discouraged, exhausted. Instead, turn to God and let him contend for you. And then take refuge in him, and then you can sing about his great salvation and tell others. That's the essence of this psalm. Let me read a little bit further here. "I am your salvation," verse 4. "May those who seek my life," they wanted to kill him, "be disgraced, put to shame. May those who plot my ruin be turned back in dismay. May they be like chaff before the wind, with the angel of the Lord driving them away." Verse 6, "May their path be dark and slippery, with the angel of the Lord pursuing them." You don't have to chase them down and beat on them. If the angel of the Lord gets after them, you need to rejoice and sing about the God who fights your battles for us and tell others about him and sing his praises. "May their path be dark and slippery, with the angel of the Lord pursuing them. Since they hid their net for me without cause, and without cause dug a pit for me." In other words, they set traps for you. They want to ensnare you, catch you in something so they can defame you or blackmail you or libel you. "May ruin overtake them by surprise." just like they wanted to surprise me and have me fall into their trap. May ruin overtake them by surprise. May the net they hid entangle them. And may they fall into the pit to their ruin, that pit that they wanted me to fall into. There's some sneaky people here. Are people that way? People try and set you up and get you in trouble? That's the kind of folks that David is talking about. Well, what do you do about it? You let the angel of the Lord run them down? Not you. You turn to God in prayer and let him contend for you. And the net and the trap that they set for you, may God turn it on them. May they reap what they sow. And the Bible says that. But let God do that. You just trust the Lord and do what good you can. Then, verse 9 says, my soul will rejoice in the Lord and delight in his salvation. My whole being will exclaim, who is like you, O Lord? You rescue the poor, the downtrodden, from those too strong for them, the poor and the needy from those who rob them. So instead of being all worried and anxious or angry, or vengeful, go to God and let him handle it. There will be those who always oppress the poor and the needy. But let God defend you, as he says. God defends the cause of the poor and the needy and the oppressed. You try and do it yourself, you're going to get wore out. And you can't do it anyway. They're too great for you, he says. Look at that again. My soul will rejoice to the Lord and delight in his salvation. My whole being will exclaim, who is like you, O Lord? You rescue the poor from those too strong for them. There are too many of them. They're too strong for you, but they're not too strong for God. Let him. He wants to intercede on behalf of those who are oppressed. Let him. Quit trying to do it yourself. And again, like I said, it's like David. So many times we exhaust our own strength in these things and trying to figure out how to get out of this trap and how to do that and the other, how to handle these. Let God handle the heavy work. You rejoice in the Lord and the God of your salvation and sing praises, and don't let them rob you of that. Don't give them your attention. Give God your attention and let him take care of that. Really, they're distractors. They want you to take your eyes off God and look at all these problems they're creating for you. Don't let them do that. Give it to God. And again, these descriptions of people can be mean and cruel and words hurt and cut. But don't take your eyes off the Lord. Let him fight for you. Ruthless witnesses come forward. They question me on things I know nothing about. In other words, they say, well, why did you do that? Why did you show up here? Blah, blah, blah. And you weren't even there. Because they want to bring you down. They repay me evil for good. And leave my soul for Lord. I did them good. I cared for them, and then they turn on me. And I haven't done anything to deserve that. No, that's just people being people. Depraved sinners acting like sinners because they can't do anything else. They repay me evil for good and leave my soul for Lord. It zaps me. Yet when they were ill, when they were sick, I put on sackcloth. I humbled myself with fasting. With my prayers, when my prayers returned to me unanswered, I went about mourning as though for my friend or my brother. I bowed my head in grief as though weeping for my mother. Well, I prayed for them, but when it didn't seem like God was going to answer their prayer for their sickness, I prayed even deeper and with sackcloth and I mourned for them. But when I stumbled, they gathered in glee. Ha ha ha! Attackers gathered against me when I was unaware. They slandered me without ceasing. I cared for them, but when I stumbled, they didn't care for me. They did the opposite. They were like attackers. They slandered me without ceasing. No wonder his soul is downcast. Well, that takes your eyes off the Lord and you get all upset and worried, and those kind of things hurts. No, give it to God. Lord, you take care of this because I can't. Verse 16, like the ungodly, they maliciously mocked. They gnashed their teeth at me. And then we have the verses 17 through 26, a whole delineation of how people can be. O Lord, how long will you look on? Rescue my life from their ravages, my precious life from these lions. They're like lions. They want to tear me apart. I cared for them, but when I struggle, they want to tear me apart. I will give you thanks in the great assembly among throngs of people. I will praise you. Let not those gloat over me who are my enemies without a cause. Enemies without a cause. People that don't like me, they don't have any reason not to like me, they just don't like you. And they wait and ensnare you and want some reason to tear you up in front of other folks. Does that sound like people? People can be vicious as lions. Let not those gloat over me who are my enemies without cause. Let not those who hate me without reason maliciously wink the eye. They do not speak peaceably, but devise false accusations against those who live quietly in the land. Hey, I'm just trying to get by, put food on the table, serve my Lord and live quietly in the land, and they don't like me and make up stories about me. They gape at me and say, aha, aha, we got you. With our eyes, we have seen it. False testifying. False witnesses. O Lord, you have seen this. Be not silent. Do not be far from me, O Lord. Awake and rise to my defense. There it is. Contend for me, my God, my Lord. Do good. Live a quiet, peaceable life. And you know what? When people see that kind of a light shining, somebody who sings praises to God and has entrusted their life to Him, they're going to persecute you. And sometimes I don't even think they know why. They're just not going to like you. Jesus warned His disciples of that. When you take a stand for living for God and doing good, there'll be some folks that won't like you much. Vindicate me in your righteousness, O Lord. My God, do not let them gloat over me. Do not let them think, aha, aha, just what we wanted, or say, we have swallowed him up. We finally got him. Well, all who gloat over me distress will put to shame and put to confusion. May all who exalt themselves over me, and that's part of it, they got to make themselves better than you by putting you down. Well, that's the very basis of racism, and it's part of the fallen, sinful nature of man. The way that they exalt or make themselves little gods is by putting other people down. But when you live a good life, a good, quiet life serving the Lord, they're going to despise you because that makes them feel like they're not little gods. So they got to put you down, bring you down. You can't fight that kind of injustice, but God can. Give it to Him. Give it to Him. They exalt themselves over me. Finally, verse 27. May those who delight in my vindication shout for joy. May those friends of mine, when they see God take care of these folks, will they shout for joy and gladness? May they always say, the Lord be exalted. It's not about exalting yourself. Some exalt the Lord. Some exalt themselves by putting other people's down. And some of the people they put down are those who exalt the Lord. Because they can't understand that. They don't like that. They're these goody two-shoes. You're not trying to be a goody two-shoes. Like David said, just trying to live a quiet, peaceable life and do good. When they were sick, I prayed for them. When it looked like they weren't going to get well, I put on sackcloth and I really, really, really prayed for them. And then they got better. And then what did they do? Put me down. Set traps for me. People are cruel. I think they're worse than ravaging lions, as David tends to indicate in this song. The Lord be exalted, who delights in the well-being of His servant. My tongue will speak of your righteousness and of your praises all day long. And that's one of the reasons David wrote this song, but he's going to tell of God's goodness. Tell of how God delivered him from these kind of people, these kind of false witnesses and accusations. Those who would exalt themselves over David by putting him down or setting a snare for him. So God wants you to testify about it, and David's going to. I'm going to tell folks about how God contended for me. It all sums up by way of conclusion in that first 3 verses. And I have those marked out in my study Bible because I love that. In the NIV, it starts out, verse 1, contend, O Lord, with those who contend with me. So here's my thought. When you find yourself oppressed, when people make accusations against you, when they're exalting themselves above you by putting you down, don't get worried. Don't try and fight your battles yourself. It will wear you out. Don't let them have you take your eyes off the Lord, but go to the Lord. Turn to him in prayer. And this is a great prayer for those periods of time. Contend, O Lord, with those who contend with me. Fight against those who fight against me. Take up shield and buckler. Arise and come to my aid. Brandish spear and javelin against those who pursue me. Say to my soul, remind me, speak into my life and remind me that I am your salvation. God is our salvation. Lord, speak into my life. Let me hear your voice, that you are my salvation. And then I'll be comforted. And let you take care of it and just give it to God. Say to my soul, Lord, I am your salvation. See, they want to take your eyes off of that. They want to take your eyes off of the God of your salvation, and you're resting and trusting in him, and put it on them. Put it on the problems. Put it on the false accusations. Don't. Come to this psalm, Psalm 35, and give it to the Lord. Don't wait till you're all exhausted and wore out and can't do any more. Right away, turn to the Lord and let him contend for you. Think on these things. Mark this psalm down. You may need it someday. I hope not. Bye-bye.